Welcome to Cyrus Bales Dispatches. The general election is only a few days away. This time around there are significantly different choices on offer compared to previous elections. What happens in the next week in politics will touch the entire nation. We get to decide whether it touches us like a Morecambe and Wise Christmas special or like just about every other 1970s entertainer touched the nation. For most people, they have a choice between two of three options. The Conservative Party, led by Theresa May, a robot with a handful of programme phrases who's often absent due to malfunction. The Liberal Democrats, led by Tim Farron, a man who embodies the answer to the question, sorry, who was that? And Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, a man with the sheer audacity to run a political campaign in this day and age based on caring about other people. Since my last episode on the election, the Conservative Party manifesto has come out. It reads like somebody is trying to win a bet by putting as much nightmare fuel and heinous acts into one publication as possible. It supports fox hunting. It has a social care policy that aims to asset strip people of their wealth on their death. It even has the removal of free school lunches, literally taking the food out of children's mouths. Considering Theresa May was Home Secretary and she lost the files on the MPs involved in sexual offences against children, it probably makes a change for many of her party to not be putting things into children's mouths. She's offering to replace this with breakfast that costs 7p for some children. 7p, that is not enough to bring back the gruel from the Victorian workhouses I'm sure she idolises. On top of this, there are further cuts to schools. There are old Catholic priests probably thinking, ooh, even I think you're taking this screwing children a bit too far. Of course, then there's the NHS. Theresa May wants to implement the Naylor Report, which basically aims to sell off NHS assets and then using the American-style accountable care organisation model, privately manage NHS areas. Since the release of the manifesto, Theresa May has had to do a U-turn, adding a cap to her social care policy, but won't even tell anyone what that cap is, making it impossible to work out quite how horrific the policy might end up being for potential voters. So what do all these cuts pay for? Well, it's reducing corporation tax and taxing the wealthier less. We already have the lowest corporation tax among our competitors, but they want to keep reducing it and will keep cutting public services in order to do that. What about the Lib Dems? Their entire campaign largely hinges around the idea of giving the British people a final vote on the specific Brexit deal we negotiate. It's pretty admirable. I'm sure many people would prefer to be consulted rather than leave it entirely to the product of aristocratic interbreeding that is Westminster. As for Labour, they have a lot of policies that are proving popular, nationalising monopolies like railways and water, investing in education and public services, investing in green energies, removing privatisation from the NHS. Their policies are basically the opposite from the Conservatives. They want to fund investment into public services by increasing corporation tax, but still being lower than our competitors, and increasing taxes on the richest 5% of people. Whereas the Conservatives want to fund corporation tax breaks and tax cuts for the wealthy by cutting public services. That's basically it. Are Labour's plans perfect? Of course not. But they are generally realistic and achievable. The Conservative Party want the British people to believe that the fifth biggest economy in the world can't afford things that the 23rd, 31st, 35th, 45th, 110th biggest economies take for granted. If countries with a tenth of our GDP or a lower GDP per capita than ours can afford these, so can we. Talking down our country is exactly what the Conservative Party are doing. They want people to think that we are a poor, struggling nation, which many people are due to this 10% fall in real wages. But the country as an economy as a whole has grown, but that growth has been concentrated into a small minority. Just take a look at the Conservative Party donor list and you can see why they are doing this. Most of them have got more surnames or houses than our cities have libraries. The last thing we need to discuss is Brexit. The choice of Brexit is simple. Either the Labour Party's Keir Starmer QC, former head of the CPS and one of the most well-respected legal professionals in the country, or Boris Johnson, a walking international incident in orangutan form, alongside David Davis, a tortured homunculus incapable of honesty. Of course, we also have May's horrific, nonsensical soundbite of "no deal is better than a bad deal." As Martin Wolf pointed out this week in the Financial Times, this is ridiculous. No deal is the worst deal we can get. It means no parameters for trade and instantly closing off our economy. Something, unsurprisingly, is better than nothing. So your choice for Prime Minister. Either somebody whose ultimate goal is to promote equality and improve living standards across the country, or somebody who was complicit in the largest fall in UK living standards in modern history. Amber Rudd told us to judge the Conservatives by their record. We are now the worst performing country in the G7, the 27th worst performing country in the EU. So really their record, much like German sausage porn, is the fucking worst. Thank you for watching, go out and vote, I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.